Welcome to A Moment of Zen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Zen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Zen Sams.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome to episode 212. We're now celebrating 5 years on the air. Here's to another exciting episode. It's such a pleasure to spend my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you for tuning in every Saturday night and engaging with me on social media afterwards. That truly makes it all worthwhile. Please continue to follow me at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X, not a Z, XENSAMS. And remember, all episodes are available on our YouTube channel, Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern via digital streaming. And of course, you can always check us out on your home TV platform. It's free programming to you on mox.yourhometv.com. In our Going Deep segment brought to you by CO2 Lift and our Expert on the Microphone series, today we're joined by the incredible Carmen Lemaire, founder of Tight Clinic in Toronto, Canada. With a focus on new technology and growth within the medical aesthetics field, Carmen is going to join me today to chat all about combating the aging process without resorting to knives and needles, and how, of course, products like CO2 Lift can enhance results and recovery. As we recognize National Infertility Awareness Week, in today's Polished Beauty segment with triple board certified cosmetic surgeon and OBGYN Dr. Daisy Ayim, who deeply understands the complexities of fertility and infertility, we're going to dive into what is impacting millions of women: IVF, egg donation, and fertility preservation with actress HBO's Duster Camille Guaty. She's openly shared her emotional journey with infertility, ultimately welcoming her son through donor conception. In the 710 WORCO Spotlight in the Expert on the Microphone series, we're diving into the mindset of a CEO who's steering one of the most dynamic firms in the financial world. Sagar Sheth, CEO of Roth Capital Partners, known for spotting early trends and navigating market shifts with confidence. We're going to dive into the hottest trends shaking up the financial world right now. In the Better, Brighter You segment brought to you by Cyspera, in the Health Tip of the Week, I dive into the topic of the stubborn skin condition called melasma and tips to help prevent and reverse it. In the Hydration with Heart Express segment by Once Upon a Coconut, Emily Hayden, podcast host, mentor, and personal coach, explores how our thoughts shape our reality and how to go from a disempowered state to an empowered state by simply shifting your perspective. And as we recognize National Infertility Week, stay tuned for Camille Guaty and Dr. Daisy Ayim chatting IVF, donor eggs, and the emotional truth behind fertility struggles. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV with Kathy Ireland and their channel partners. Head to yourhometv.com for free, family-friendly programming, streaming 24/7.
In business and in life, there's always an upside. Finding it is often the challenge. Having a mindset that looks for it and embraces problems as opportunities is the key to thriving. Finding the Upside with Maria de Lorenzis Reyes explores the transformative power of optimism, featuring visionary business owners, influential leaders, and inspiring everyday people. Tune in and see how they navigate changing conditions with optimism and innovation. Watch the special series One Tough Chick, highlighting resilient and powerful women, streaming on yourhometv.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome back to the Polished Beauty segment, where we're diving into a topic that affects millions: IVF, egg donation, and fertility preservation. With us is actress Camille Guaty, who has openly shared her emotional journey with infertility, ultimately welcoming her son through donor conception. You may recognize her from her incredible performance on screen, including HBO's Duster, where she portrays a fierce truck driver navigating single motherhood in the 1970s. And joining us, of course, is our expert co-contributor, the amazing Dr. Daisy Ayim, triple board certified cosmetic surgeon and OBGYN and founder of the Polished Beauty podcast. She is deeply understands the complexities of fertility and infertility. This week, as we recognize National Infertility Awareness Week, we're going to break down the stigmas, discuss the science, and shed light on the hope that medical advancements are bringing. We're going to get into it right now, chatting donor eggs and the emotional truth behind fertility struggles. Welcoming now to the show is the incredible Camille Guaty and Dr. Daisy Ayim. Welcome to the show, superstars.
Yes, thank you for having me. This is a very special week. It's very important to me and a lot of people. So I really appreciate being here this week.
You are a trailblazer, and your last interview with us touched so many people. Infertility affects 1 in 8 couples in the US, if not more. Yet, despite how common it is, many women still feel a very deep sense of isolation and shame. Studies are showing that nearly 61% of women going through infertility do not openly discuss their journey, often out of fear or societal pressure. Now, you've been refreshingly open about your experience. 5 rounds of IVF, IUI, and ultimately donor conception. What made you decide to share your story so publicly? And how has that vulnerability impacted you and many others?
I remember going through so much emotional struggle, physical struggle, financial struggle. And ultimately, we ended up choosing donor conception to have our child. And at the end of it all, I remember I was pregnant, and my publicist said, "Hey, People Magazine want to do an announcement with you and your pregnancy." And I was like, "Oh," and I just had this like moral kind of moment with myself. Two things. I didn't want to be that woman that was celebrating my pregnancy and having other women look at it and say, "Oh, well, she did it at 40, then I can do it too." I felt like it was a giant lie, one. But two, I also wanted to celebrate it. I didn't want to I felt so much shame in this process. I still felt shame when I was pregnant. And I wanted to overcome that. And I felt like if I stepped into the truth of my story, of my husband's story, of our family building story, why can't we just celebrate that? And I tell people that, and then hopefully this will help heal me and it will help heal others that were listening. And I had to have a chat with my husband because he was not on board. He wanted to keep this secret at first. And I said, I think being secret about it makes me feel like there was a problem. Mm. And I think without that, you take that secret away and you talk about the truth, then it's not a problem, right? Then it becomes just another way that we decided to have a baby. And he understood. And so we made the announcement on People Magazine. And I remember the reporter said to me, "Oh, I feel like this is going to be the moment. Like everyone is going to come out because we know that there's more people that have done donor conception and more actors or more public figures." And they were wrong. Everybody was silent. Nobody came out. And that's fine, because I also have this saying, there's a difference between secrecy and privacy, right? Mm-hmm. Secrecy is what my husband wanted to do. He wanted to not even tell our child. And privacy is, maybe something that I do now, not when I'm speaking publicly, but maybe in school, or I don't choose to be the mic piece every time for donor conception. I'm aware of who I'm speaking to, and if it's something that I want to share with them, and they don't have to.
Although the celebrities and people didn't come out, I assure you that they were sitting at home in their corners relating to your story, seeing comfort in your story. Mm-hmm. And everyone react to that process differently, As a OBGYN that I have heavy fertility patients in my practice, I get the emotional roller coaster havoc that comes with that process. It can be endless financial circles, emotional, you name it. And the idea of having donor egg for a woman that has always felt that she would have her own child, it's huge. for her to reconcile that, be okay with it, and move forward. So I applaud you for bringing your story out loud. What I wanted to kind of, if you can allow me to ask you, go deeper on how did you work that process?
Hmm.
Aligning yourself with the ideology of, you're not genetically bound to your child, but it is your child.
Oh, it was a long, long road. Because as you know, and as other people who are listening know, when you're struggling with infertility or when you're going through IVF, they tell you you just need one. You just need one egg. So that the giving up is hard because, gosh, well, what if my next cycle is the one? What if the next one is the one? And so getting yourself to say, that's it, I can't do this anymore, um, is really hard. And I remember saying, oh, I am not going to stop until I am financially tapped out. Cause then now my insurance covers IVF, but then it was completely out of pocket. I was doing crazy things to get drugs. I'm sure you don't want to know this, but I was, because it was the only way that I could afford a cycle. Like, I just didn't see it any other way at the time. I was like, this is the only way, and it's gonna happen. And right before we were starting our fifth or sixth cycle, we did the baseline and they checked, and I had like no follicles, maybe one. And they were, the nurse was like, you're doing this when? I said, well, tonight I'm starting the medication. She's like, don't waste your money. Cancel the cycle. And I was like, oh, if you think about it, all those times that I tried to get pregnant, I envisioned what that child was going to look like. I did these manifestations of, all the times that they were putting all these, acupuncture needles in my belly. And I just sat there every time. And I was really focusing on this baby and what that would feel like. And every time it didn't happen. So my heart was beyond broken. I was mad at the world. I was mad at God. I was mad at myself. I was mad at my husband. I was mad at every woman who was pregnant. The whole world was a giant trigger to me, and I hated it. And I couldn't go to baby showers. I had to stop following people on Instagram. And my husband said, donor conception was always on the table. And because it was, we had a great doctor who was always like, and over here, there's donor egg. And I was always so mad. I'm like, stop it. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm
Yeah.
fine. This is going to happen. And whenever donor conception was brought up, to me, I felt like a failure. I felt like I was old. I felt like my husband was going to be less attracted to me. I felt like he would be more connected to the child than me. I mean, the list goes on. And I finally got to this place where at first the egg donor, whoever she was at the time, she wasn't anybody, but she used to make me feel jealous and all of the things that I told you. And somewhere along the line, I just had this aha moment, and I shifted my lens, and I saw this woman as just an angel. I mean, here was this woman who is, it's going to make me cry. Here's this woman who was giving me like the ability to carry my child, the ability to be a mom in a different way that adoption couldn't, I wouldn't be able to experience. Um, and and also not being able to have my own genetics, I obviously couldn't do that, but I was able to carry. So I said, well, if I'm able to carry, why don't I allow myself to experience motherhood this way?
So I'm going to fast forward to 2019. After years of struggle, you finally welcomed your beautiful son, Morrison Raphael. Okay, I want to give him the grand entrance that he deserves because we've been talking about this, and now here we go. And when you look at parents who go through IVF experience, they do experience intense joy, and many also report, a lingering anxiety, perhaps as a result of years of emotional and physical toll.
Mhm.
So when you held him for the first time, what emotions flooded over you? And how has your specific experience shaped your perspective on motherhood?
I mean, I think I was in shock when I first held him. I also did something really cool, but I told my doctor that I know this is going to sound really weird, but you're an OBG. Like this is a women's well, it's not really a women's issue, it's a women and men's issue. But I wanted to grab him out of me and like take him out, and the doctor allowed me to do that. And I just remember like that feeling of just having this baby that was in my belly, and here he is, and he's on top of me right now, and his heartbeat and his cry and his everything was so a part of me that I like you don't see any of the other things that existed. Now the fears, I have to say, and I'm honest with this, fears don't just go away, right? They don't just go away lickety split. I still I knew what my triggers were going to be then. They change, right? Now I had different triggers like, oh, what does everybody love to say about a baby? Oh my gosh, he looks so much like you. Oh, he looks so much like, oh, he's your daddy's nose. Oh, da, 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 da. And that was going to be my biggest trigger. Like, I'm not going to look like my baby. And that's okay. But this is an opportunity to like
Yeah.
tell people the story.
So, Camille, knowing what you know now, I mean, your story is just powerful and beautiful. I get that conversation here in the office, and I've seen those tears. I've been the shoulder for those patients to cry on,
Mm,
and it gets me emotional because of that. I decided at 37 to go and freeze my eggs, so that I was already a mother, because I had the privilege to encounter women that have been through this path, and it was almost like a light bulb in my head that went up, and I thought, let me do this for me, right?
mm.
But knowing what you know now, if you had to look back, would you have done egg freezing at a younger age? And what would you say to listeners out there when it comes to that?
Freeze your eggs. I say it to everybody. I hate it that I'm like the little detective, but I'm talking to women and they're going off, and I'm like, it happened the other day actually. I said, so how old are you?
Right.
Like, have you ever considered freezing your eggs? Oh, yeah, it's expensive. I was like, well, look into it. Get a credit card, do it. um, it's a tricky question for me because if I didn't go through the journey that I went through, I wouldn't have my son. But if we take Morrison out of the equation, would I have frozen my eggs? Yes. I would have said absolutely. Why? Because it's power. Women, this is freezing your eggs is giving yourself power. It's giving yourself an assurance for it's or insurance for the future, for your future. You can get rid of this idea of this, that we live with this ticking clock, and it's not fair that we have to live with that and the men don't.
I back that 1,000%. Every woman that comes to my office, just off note, that is over 30 for annual exam or any issue, childless, married or unmarried, I always bring up egg freezing that you should do it. When they're younger than 30, I bring it up, but probably not to the same intensity because I know that's the time they're still trying to put themselves together. But
Right.
definitely 30 and above, it should be in your number one priority if you do not have family immediately in mind and you remotely think you're going to be a mother someday. And I say remote because your opinion changes and your feeling
Sure.
changes depending on how life, gives you whatever it gives you.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
I wanted to just ask, infertility is such an isolating event. It can be very shameful, just like you mentioned. Women sort of punish themselves for not seeing that and live in a society where being a mother in some ways is held as the beacon of feminism or being a woman, if you don't have that ability, it becomes really hard. So I want to know, is there any words of hope and encouragement that you can give to that woman listening to this that's going through this journey currently?
Yes. Number one is you are not alone. And it's kind of a slogan that I've taken on. But it's the truth. I feel now more than ever, there is such a community out there. And if you need to be private about the issues that you're going through, that's okay, because this is the one area where I think social media is amazing, that we have direct messaging. You do the hashtags infertility, hashtag IVF, and you will find a community of women out there that are willing to speak, willing to help. There's chat groups, talk groups, there's even courses that you can take, and I speak on the panel sometimes, and there are women and men that are going through the same thing as you are. Trust me, your story is not
Let
the only one.
let's talk on that, the men. So let's talk about the role of partners in this
Mm.
journey, because studies show that infertility can place immense strain on relationships. In fact, like 48% of couples report feeling a heightened emotional toll. Now, your husband Sai was by your side through it all.
Yes.
How did you both navigate the ups and downs together, and what advice do you have for couples facing similar challenges?
I mean, I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, but I feel like therapy saved us. I think communication, number one. Try to support each other as best as you can, um, and don't isolate. Don't isolate, because the one thing that my husband said to me um, when we were going through this is, I was so angry, and I was just so mad. I was mad at him, mad at me, mad, for starting late. And he said, this isn't just happening to you. This is happening to us. And that was so important for me to hear, because I did feel like I was doing this on my own, not because of anything he was doing, but I felt like he just couldn't understand. Well, he doesn't know. He doesn't know what this
Yeah.
feels like. But yes, he does. Not the physical part of it, but emotionally, it's as devastating for the man, if it's not the man that has the issue. It's as devastating for them as it is for us.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's such a beautiful t- testament, right, to partnership, because
mhm.
true love through all the highs and lows always wins. So I think it's all about the right partners as well.
Yeah, you just have to lean into each other in this and don't separate. I know if the men are going through infertility, it's harder for them in the sense that there is a community, but the community is not as big. Men also don't talk about it as much as the women. There's more women out there talking about infertility than there are men. So it's I feel like the men are coming out a little bit more, but the shame exists a little bit stronger at the moment for men. So I implore the men to start coming out and talking.
I think the most powerful thing you've said of all things that I want women and I tell my patients to do is protect your peace. You are intuitive enough to know to remove yourself from seeing posts about babies, all those things. It's not mean spirited, it's definitely very self care and very important to understand that those visuals can do something to your spirit and your soul. So I commend you for doing
Mm,
that step for yourself.
thank you.
And in light of National Infertility Awareness Week, it's definitely about shedding light on these conversations and breaking the stigma. So, for those of you listening who are in the midst of their own fertility struggles, I hope this segment truly helps you feel encouraged and find your own community. But I know that Camille, you are extremely transparent and open. Definitely head to her page, because I know she's gonna reciprocate right back at Camille Guaty, right?
Thank you. Yes, of course. Anybody who has any questions, I always say I'll give you my opinion, my advice. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. So do, take my information as you will. But yes, I'm here.
Well, between you and Dr. Daisy, I mean, Camille, choosing to start a family through IVF, donor eggs, or even egg freezing, right? That's an emotional, financial, and deeply personal journey. So you've done a great job at really articulating the ups and downs of this, but ultimately you have the most incredible
Little boy.
son. Exactly, the most incredible son that is now gracing your life. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That was the Polished Beauty segment. Make sure to definitely follow Dr. Daisy Ayim at the Polished Beauty Podcast and head to Camille's social media where you could find her and where she shares her incredible story. She's extremely transparent. And remember, infertility is a challenge, not an identity. You are not alone. Until next time, you're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. Do check out Camille at Camille Guaty, CamilleGuaty. We'll be right back after this. A Moment of Zen is brought to you by the Polished Beauty Podcast with Dr. Daisy Ayim. Hey, ambitious women, ready to shine on the inside and out? Tune in to the Polished Beauty Podcast, where we talk about business, beauty, brains, and body all in one spot. Meet Dr. Daisy Ayim, triple board certified cosmetic surgeon, pro-aging advocate, fitness enthusiast, and your go-to for real talk on leveling up every part of your life. The Polished Beauty Podcast is your dose of ambition meets empowerment. For more information, head to polishedbeautypodcast.com. Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in the Going Deep segment brought to you by CO2 Lift in our Expert on the Microphone series. Today we're joined by the amazing Carmen Lemaire, founder of Tight Clinic in Toronto, Canada. Coming from a corporate background with over 15 years in the jewelry industry, at 30 years old, she was diagnosed with cancer, prompting her to shift her career to health and wellness. Starting from scratch in 2019, her own medical aesthetics clinic, Tight Clinic, was born, with Carmen herself performing treatments as the sole proprietor and practitioner. You fast forward to present day, Tight Clinic now has 2 locations and over 23 widely versed staff members. With a focus on new technology and growth within the medical aesthetics field, Carmen joins me today to chat all about combating the aging process without resorting to knives and needles, and how products like CO2 Lift can enhance results and recovery. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so excited to have you on. You are glowing and beautiful. Can't wait for people to see this segment. Let's dive right in. So, when it comes to skincare and aesthetic treatments, there's a long list of options to combat the aging process. And while many turn to Botox and fillers or even surgical procedures, you're an expert and advocate for effective solutions that would provide long lasting, dramatic results without resorting to the knives and needles. Fittingly, when you look at recent years, there has been a noticeable shift in patient preferences towards these non-invasive or minimally invasive procedures over surgical options. Now, in your expert opinion, what do you believe is driving this increasing demand for non-invasive procedures and products?
So I feel in the last couple of years, people have really looked at what's out there and what people's faces have started to look like as they have piled in fillers and piled in the Botox. And then the term pillow face was coined and everyone got scared. So I feel like the trends that are driving in our business right now are going to be non-invasive skin tightening with things such as HIFU, which is the high intensity focused ultrasound, things like microneedling, RF microneedling, Tixel, any sort of things that are going to tighten and lift the face without adding unnecessary and scary volume to it.
Yeah, it's that volume that they're adding, and even behind your actual facial lines, like tucking behind the ears and like really hiding it in places where you know it's going to eventually migrate and you're going to look like a round egg. Now,
Yes.
now I know
Yes.
at Tight Clinic you stay up to date and have the most cutting edge technologies and the medical grade products on hand, but specifically you highlight In Mode Forma, which is a skin tightening solution, has been used by celebrities like Kim and Kourtney Kardashian and Christy Teigen and Ashley Tisdale and Emma Roberts, and that's just to name a few. So it's quite popular. What makes In Mode Forma stand out compared to other skin tightening treatments?
So In Mode Forma was actually the very first thing that we offered. It was the very first and only platform that we had when I first started out. And keep in mind, I started out in my condo. I couldn't afford a space and a machine. So that was all that we had. And we were one of the first in Canada to offer it. A lot of the content creators and a lot of the influencers and a lot of the general public had heard about this, weren't able to get it here. You had to fly to New York or fly to LA, and I believe it was like 600 or 800 US dollars per session. So when we brought this in, I was gearing to focus on everyone from 25 years old up to 60 years old. But the 25-year-olds, there's no way that they're going to be able to afford 800 US dollars because you have to do six of them spaced about a week apart. So I priced them at 250, and we were incredibly busy. We were booked months out because, again, we were the only people offering this. So the premise behind it was radio frequency and heat are going to go underneath of your skin. Very not painless at all. Uses some ultrasound gel, feels like a hot stone massage on your face. You do 6 sessions and it's going to tighten up that jaw, tighten up your nasolabials, and just rejuvenate the skin very non-invasively. So that's what we started with. And that was our most popular treatment for a very long time until I went to Japan and Korea last year because they really know what's happening over there. And I went for 3 weeks and I went to, I would say, at least 30 consultations to plastic surgery clinics, to doctor's offices, to dermatologists, to skin spas, and I found out what they were doing there. And so we basically brought back Canada's version of that, which is now HIFU and the Tixel. It's so popular over there, and I had never really heard that term before. When I went there, every single office had like 10 different variations, and everyone over there looks so tight. Like you can't tell anyone's age. It's unbelievable.
Wow, this is so proprietary. You're getting me very excited, and my listeners are Googling it right now. So let's bring CO2 lift into the picture. As we know, carboxytherapy has been around since the 1930s, injecting carbon dioxide gas underneath the skin. But CO2 lift was able to remodel this in a new delivery system as a topical gel mask. And while it has many monotherapy benefits, it can also be used in combo therapies, both pre and post procedure. I know you're familiar and a big fan of the product. How does CO2 Lift fit into your broader treatment plans, and how have you firsthand seen it improve a patient's results and recovery?
So when we first received the product, I wasn't really sure, there's so many things that come out and I was like, okay, this is another thing. And I know how clients feel about add-ons. A lot of the time they're like, well, I just spent 500 or 900 or $1,000. So I was like, what is this and how does it work? So my first experience with it was I did something crazy very, very normal with me. I did quite an invasive peel and they microneedled it into my face. Number one, imagine how much that hurts.
Oh my God.
And then imagine after, like, you're gonna have to do the healing from the microneedling plus the healing from the peel. I was terrified. And my lead facialist was like, you need to put the CO2 mask on after. And I was like, anything that's gonna help, fine. So I took a picture hour by hour after having this mask on, and my face should have been in bad shape for probably 5 days. I'm not joking. Within 24 hours, I looked completely normal and I was literally shocked. So now, anyone who comes in for anything like even slightly invasive, if you're doing RF microneedling, if you're doing Morpheus 8, if you're doing regular microneedling, if you're doing Tixel, if you're doing ablative things to your eyelids, if you're doing any sort of ablative laser, you're leaving with this on your face. And it's actually become kind of a funny thing because our building is like a beautiful ivy covered building downtown Toronto, but it's like in a residential area. And the neighbors laugh because they're like, everyone leaves your clinic looking like a melted candle. People just leave and get in their car with CO2 on. It's so common. Like I would say 90% of the time now, anything invasive, people are walking out looking like a melted candle.
I love this. And are there any specific treatments that you find that CO2 Lift pairs exceptionally well with?
Honestly, absolutely anything that gives you an effed up face. Like, again, we can microneedle and we can go like 2.5 millimeters deep, where somebody might have a week of downtime. If you're doing CO2 lift immediately after, you're going to be fine the next day. And it's actually been so amazing for us because a lot of the women that come are professionals. They're, celebrities or people who are on TV or they're content creators. And people get so hesitant to do treatments because they can't have any downtime. And now with this, you don't really have to have any downtime. You just have to go to the doctor for the day and then go home and look fine the next day. And even with people who come in, we have a lot of moms that come in and like they'll have 2 or 3 year olds who smash their head on a coffee table and like they don't want them to be scarred for life. And I'm like, put CO2 lift on the child.
Yeah,
So
I put CO2 on my daughter's burn in Jamaica. She's 9. Her face, she's very pale and her face blistered on day 2, and I put CO2 and the next day she was perfectly fine. So something I love about it, it's what we're talking about, the regenerative utilizing power of carbon dioxide to naturally trigger that increase in oxygen and blood supply that in turn increases hydration and elasticity and thickens the epithelium and overall improves functionality. There's a science behind this. We're not just raving about a mask that you can go buy at Sephora, right?
correct.
Not to mention it's so simple to use, and to your point, can be applied in the comfort of one's home. So for those who are new to the world of aesthetics but are eager to slow down or even reverse the signs of aging, what are some simple effective treatments with minimal downtime that you would recommend as a starting point?
As a starting point, I would definitely, like, first off, just with the basics, recommend doing a facial quarterly. Like, as the seasons change, do a bespoke facial, go into an expert, make sure that they're taking a good look at your skin, giving you an educated opinion. And going into the clinic to have those procedures done and following it up with home care is amazing. Anyone from the age of 25 plus, I would suggest starting to do something that rebuilds your collagen and tightens your skin, such as Forma, such as HIFU, such as Tixel, and even microneedling. Because after 25, we start losing collagen and it starts dropping every single year. And that's why people end up, having their face fall and trying to fill it up with too much filler. So being preventative, I think, is definitely the key. And then again, as we were speaking about filler trends changing, we have 7 nurses on staff and we do fillers. We do tasteful fillers. However, this is the year of like the minimal, and I feel like PRF has been so popular. And for people who don't want anything that is not their own body matter in their face, you can come in, they'll take your blood, put it in the centrifuge, remove your plasma, turn it into PRF, and it turns into a very viscous material. And you can inject it under eyes, nasolabial folds, and you can microneedle the rest into your face. And it's just so good for you. So I think prevention is the key and just being consistent as much as possible.
That's great advice. Now, lastly, I know you're also the co-founder of the Collective Women's Empowerment Summit. I love that, which unites women from all different backgrounds to connect, grow, and drive meaningful impact. So what inspired you to create this event, and what impact have you seen so far for women in both your field and others?
So I feel like when I first started my business, nobody told me how to do anything and I had to find everything out on my own. And it's always so like disappointing and it's always so hard like asking people for help and not being able to get it and having just to raw dog it, try and figure out what you're doing. Every client that I would get was from a different industry, and these women would tell me stories of how they built something incredible from nothing. And I was so inspired by all of these stories. And about a year goes by, and one of my first clients, she's a worldwide event producer, and she produces events for like Ferrari, for Porsche, for all sorts of crypto all across the world, in Singapore and in China and in Europe. And she knows how to put on an incredible, incredible event. She goes, "You know what? You've been telling me these stories for the past year." And she's like, "I really think we need to unite women and inspire women and have different panel sessions with people from different industries telling real stories and really inspiring one another." And so, actually, our inaugural event was last year in March. And we had 500 guests at the Park Hyatt. We had some incredible sponsors. The day started at 7 a.m., it ended at 7 p.m. It was like the full meal deal, and it was so inspiring. I think everyone left making friends. There was like laughter, there was tears. It was such a beautiful experience. And we benefit the Canadian Women's Foundation. So everything goes back to a community that really needs that, and they really need that for the resources. And they're able to do so much with their initiatives.
Oh,
So
wow. God bless you. Well, we are at the end of this date, my dear. Thank you so much for coming on. You inspired me, you educated me and our audience, and I had a lot of fun doing it. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much for having me. You're an angel. This was so fun and so amazing.
That was our Going Deep segment brought to you by CO2 Lift, and that was the incredible Carmen Lemaire. To learn more about Tight Clinic, head to tightclinic.com and definitely check her out on the gram at Tight Clinic. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by CO2 Lift. As we age, our skin loses moisture and elasticity, causing wrinkled skin. You can reverse this aging process with CO2 Lift. CO2 Lift utilizes the powerful benefits of carbon dioxide to lift, tighten, and regenerate your skin. This simple, painless at-home carboxytherapy treatment is scientifically proven to reverse the aging process. You will see reduction in wrinkles, increase luminosity, and improve pigmentation, sagging, skin tone, and radiance.
For more information or to order CO2 Lift, ask your skincare professional or go to co2lift.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. This is your host, Zen Sams. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. In our health tip of the week, brought to you by Cyspera, today we'll dive into the topic of melasma. While there are several individual factors that can contribute, hormonal fluctuations, such as those experienced during pregnancy or those using birth control, can trigger or worsen melasma, which is a skin condition presenting with brownish patches typically appearing on the face. But how do you manage this? Dermatologists recommend daily use of a broad-spectrum sunscreen, wearing protective hats outdoors, and considering advanced skincare treatments formulated with ingredients like cysteamine and isobionicamide, clinically shown to help reduce discoloration effectively. So if you're battling hormone-induced melasma, start with these 3 tips. But remember, because melasma is complex and influenced by individual factors like skin type, hormone levels, and lifestyle, it's important to always consult with a board-certified dermatologist to find the best personalized approach for your skin. That was our health tip of the week, brought to you by Cyspera. Be sure to check them out online at cyspera.com and on Instagram at Cyspera. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Cyspera. If skin discoloration is making it hard to find your Zen, Cyspera can help. Stubborn pigmentation, dark spots, and uneven skin tone concerns go beyond the surface, affecting both confidence and self-expression. In a sea of skincare choices, Cyspera stands apart. Backed by science and trusted by dermatologists worldwide, Cyspera is powered by the advanced cysteamine isobonic amide complex, delivering clinically proven results and effectively targeting mild to persistent discoloration while restoring the skin's natural glow. Unlike harsh treatments, Cyspera is formulated for all skin types, including sensitive areas, ensuring visible improvements without irritation. Whether pigmentation is a new concern or a long-standing struggle, Cyspera works in harmony with the skin to bring balance, clarity, and renewed confidence. Cyspera is science-driven skincare for confidence that shines. Find your skin zen and restore your glow with Cyspera today by heading to Cyspera.com. A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV with Kathy Ireland and their channel partners. Head to yourhometv.com for free, family-friendly programming, streaming 24/7.
The Kelly Williams Show is brought to you by Serendipity Yacht Cruises and Events. Tune in and turn on your happy. Kelly Williams is full of energy and incredible guests. Watch her anytime, free programming on Your Home TV network, and do follow her on social media for a chance to win monthly prizes. Check out The Kelly Williams Show on yourhometv.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. We're live from the iconic iHeart headquarters, and today on the WOR CEO Spotlight in the Expert on the Microphone series, we're diving into the mindset of a CEO who's steering one of the most dynamic firms in the financial world. Sagar Sheth is the CEO of Roth Capital Partners, known for spotting early trends and navigating market shifts with confidence. Today, we're going to dive into the hottest trends shaking up the financial world right now, from the return of the retail investor to the big question, is the IPO market
finally ready to roar back in 2025. We're also going to be breaking down the small cap comeback as investors set their sights on new growth opportunities. And of course, we're going to be exploring all of the recent impact of the trade policies. Now, the U.S. economy is being rebooted with aggressive tactics, and it's heading into uncertain waters. But we're here to break it all down for you. Don't want to miss this powerhouse conversation. Now we're going to unlock the mind of a CEO leading the charge. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Oh, thank you so much. Love that energy.
Let's chat from the very beginning, from analyst to basically architect. Let's chat your journey. So your career spans institutions like UBS, Deutsche Bank, and Morgan Stanley before ultimately stepping into the role of CEO, first at MKM Partners and now at Roth Capital Partners after the 2023 acquisition. Now, in a world where leadership trajectories are rarely linear, your journey is both impressive and instructive. So what was that pivotal moment in your career that shifted your path toward becoming a CEO, and what core philosophy carried you through to the top of the finance world, essentially?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for that kind recap. And, in the spirit of humility, I still remember what it was like to be 22 years old and just try to get my first job on Wall Street. And admittedly, if life had ended right after that and I got the job on Wall Street, I thought that was success. So anything that happened after that is sort of icing on the cake. And, believe it or not, that's almost a little bit of the spirit of the philosophy here, is that a lot of people can work hard, and sometimes timing, good fortune, and fate have a lot to do with it. So I want to thank the powers above for having those things align for me in my journey. But a couple things. I bring up the 22-year-old because, quite frankly, my eyes are on the younger generation these days. And when I think about their rise in corporate America and what they need to do to navigate these markets and to actually create opportunities for themselves, that's actually almost more important to me than my journey in itself. But one thing that hasn't changed is having a seat at the table, knowing how valuable that seat can be. And one of the philosophies that's helped me to answer your question would be make the most of the seat that you have. Excel at that seat. Make that seat larger than life. Take advantage of the opportunities that you can get from having that seat. And then, quite frankly, be ready to lose it all. So one of the things I'm ready for, I hope this doesn't happen tomorrow, but if it does, if I got fired tomorrow, quite frankly, if I don't operate like that, how successful of a CEO am I going to be? I'm going to make decisions that only keep me employed. So quite frankly, I'm always ready to just be let go tomorrow. And you know what that's going to happen for today, what that's going to do today? I'm going to make the best decisions I can for my employees because I'm going to want to be remembered by something. So I'd say value the seat and be ready to lose it. And quite frankly, those two philosophies have helped a lot in my journey.
Wow, that's powerful.
Thank
wow,
you.
especially in an industry that doesn't often allow for reflection. It's clear your journey hasn't been about checking boxes, but about building value across every rung of the ladder. And I love that about you. Which brings me to my next question, leading through economic whiplash. So we're living in a time of wild economic crosswinds, inflation pressures, rate cuts on the horizon, and it's uncertainty across global markets. Leadership under these conditions is a different beast, and it requires constant recalibration. So how are you approaching leadership in such a turbulent financial landscape? And what mindset do you believe is non-negotiable for CEOs navigating today's economy?
Everybody out there, don't forget to learn about history, because history is like one of the best ways we can prepare for the future. But quite frankly, the way I kind of see our firm right now is the firm should be set up where despite what the volatility is, despite what happens, are we going to have a business line that wins? In a funny way, I hate to use this analogy. It's like a casino. The casino tends to win no matter what. They win 51% of the time. The casino's set up that if the slot machines don't work, maybe the blackjack table is going to work. Maybe the roulette table will work. Sometimes hedge funds, mutual funds, investment banks, we have a similar philosophy where there are parts of the house that are going to win.
Now let's talk about the return of the retail investors. So retail investors are back, and in a big way. Yeah. After cooling off post-2021, they're re-entering the chat with confidence, especially in sectors like AI and biotech and EVs. And according to Vanda Research, retail trading volume is now flirting with its meme stock era highs. Yeah. Roth sits at quite a unique intersection of retail and institutional energy. So how is Roth Capital Partners navigating this convergence of retail and institutional influence? And where do you see smart money, quote unquote, moving as we head deeper into 2025?
Roth Capital in particular, our clients are hedge funds, mutual funds, pension plans. We don't necessarily service retail directly, but we certainly have our eye on that pool of capital. So, when I think about the market, I try to split it up into a few categories. And whether you call it smart money or just money, I think a lot of the money's smart out there at this point. Everybody's money is smart, in my opinion. So hedge funds, mutual funds, pension plans, sovereign wealth, family offices, retail. I've got my eye on each one of those segments. The one thing I'd say about retail that's probably different than 10 or 20 years ago is the amount of information and tools that retail investors have today. You cannot ignore that. So stocks can move. They can work together to move things. We've seen the social media forums, X and Reddit, where there could be a lively discussion that can actually move a stock, and you can't ignore that. So I think retail money is smarter than it's ever been before, and I think there can be a lot of conviction and everyone searching for opportunities in this volatility that we had.
Yeah, it's fascinating because retail investors, come to think of it, they're no longer just noise, they're a signal. And the firms that adapt to that new power structure will without a doubt lead the next generation of capital markets.
And I'd say one other thing is that, and you and I talked about this earlier, it's just think of how easy it is to access the market in 2025. Everybody can trade on their cell phone now, all over the world. So this retail trend isn't just something in the U.S. One of the fastest growing segments in other countries, emerging markets, is the idea that anybody can open a retail brokerage account on your cell phone and start trading stocks a little bit at a time. That adds up very quickly. So we're well aware of that at Roth. And when we try to analyze market movement, we factor retail in as a huge component of our analysis.
Yeah, that's a great point. Now let's chat IPOs on the horizon. Is the window reopening is the big question. So after a 2-year IPO drought, the market seems to be thawing. Stripe, Databricks, and Reddit have reignited the public market conversation, and many are calling 2025 the year of the reawakening. But successful IPOs really just depend on timing. You know this, macro alignment, and really investor appetite. So from Roth's perspective, what needs to align for, per se, Roth-backed companies to step into the public arena again? And do you think that the IPO window is truly reopening in 2025?
The story and the companies haven't changed. The question is the timing right now? And clearly with this volatility, it might not be. And that's for good reason. Think about it this way. If you were a publicly traded company yesterday, your stock could move down, up or down 10%, and it would have nothing to do with the fundamentals of your company. So if you're a private company waiting to go public, is that the time to go? So I think the two most important things we need to see in order for that pipeline to really come back is, number one, we need to see some stability in the markets. We can't have this type of movement, not for that particular asset, which is the IPOs. Yeah. And then two, volatility. And then if I was a management team navigating a publicly traded company, those are the two things that I would look for to get comfort before I go into the markets.
That's why you do what you do. You paint a realistic yet optimistic picture, and it's clear Roth isn't just watching the window, it's positioning companies to walk through it when the timing is right. So I love that. Now let's, keeping timing, no pun intended, we could talk about this all day, but let's talk small cap comeback, opportunity or mirage, right? So the small cap stocks have underperformed large caps for the better part of the last 2 years, but that might be shifting with the Fed signaling all these, potential rate cuts and inflation cooling. We are seeing renewed interest in growth plays and small cap equities. I mean, the Russell 2000 is gaining traction. Where does Roth stand on small cap equities right now? Are there specific sectors you believe are poised to explode, and where are investors still getting it wrong?
I believe there are probably fundamentally sound companies within the small cap universe that are getting no attention from Wall Street, and they're getting no attention from the retail investor because people don't know about them. We may not know about the 175 million market cap company that's generating 30, 40 million in cash. I would say my advice in that sense would be look for companies that are financially sound, fundamentally have a great vision and a game plan, a strong management team, and that's regardless of the market cap. But that's going to help you get through this environment, is picking strong stocks like that. With respect to the rates, that's a whole other topic, and we can talk about that one later. But most importantly, I'd say there are opportunities in small cap, but there's probably opportunities across market caps right now, given the volatility in the market.
Yeah, too often small cap is in fact treated as high risk, but I love your approach because it does underscore the calculated opportunity within strategic sectors, right? So let's chat scaling a vision post-acquisition. So mergers often bring turbulence, but they also bring opportunity, right? Roth's acquisition of MKM Partners last year was a strategic move that merged institutional research strength with Roth's transactional DNA, basically integrating leadership and legacy. And I'm sure that wasn't easy. So how have you approached post-acquisition integration? What lessons have you learned from blending two distinct firm cultures into one unified vision?
Yeah, it's great. So, one of the things you want to do, I think any great company, the employees can sell a platform and tell a story. So did our story get better with this acquisition? I think that did happen. The other thing is we took two components of businesses on Wall Street. One was an investment bank, one was a trading firm, and we put them together. So thankfully, each side was very additive. And I think on every metric you look at for the combined company is stronger than the sum of the parts individually. So I am really happy with the way that went. Integration, merging two companies, it's never easy. It's the things you don't think about, everything from back office functions to payroll to benefits, things like that. However, I do think that every employee was able to, one, learn about a business line that they may not have known about. You have more colleagues, you have more offices, you have greater infrastructure, and we have stronger opportunities and greater opportunities for expansion around the globe.
And that seamless integration is rare, but your emphasis on people-first leadership and operational alignment, that is what sets a gold standard for how firms should really approach M&A, right?
I would say one of the things on that note is that, it's funny, in this business, it's human capital. And what we've noticed is whenever things get volatile, the idea of having a human behind the phone and not a bot behind the phone has actually been something we truly believe in, and we see it all day, every day in periods of volatility. So when people ask me about AI and the ways that we can use AI will certainly help our business, but it doesn't change the fact that when a stock drops dramatically and a hedge fund or mutual fund calls us, they want to talk to a human being. So our business model continues to get validated when there's periods of volatility.
Nice.
So we're excited.
Nice. That mindset, that CEO mindset. So let's talk about what keeps you sharp. There's no playbook for being a CEO, especially not in modern capital markets. And your job requires vision, it requires energy, and really the ability to see 10 steps ahead. But with so much noise, staying sharp is a full-time job. So what daily habits or rituals or mindsets do you rely on to maintain clarity and stay ahead of trends and lead from the front?
It's actually being around people. And quite frankly, the best ideas come from when we're all together in a room, and you can't replicate that in any other environment. So New York City back to office culture is something that really exists. And I'd say the amount of market intelligence that I receive just by going into the office every day, despite all this volatility, I don't know if I'd have that same information if I was sitting at home right now. So it helps. But it's also just great lifestyle choices. Are you working out in the morning or in the afternoon? Are you reading a lot? Are you getting a good understanding of the headlines? Am I picking up the phone if I can't interact with people to get people's thoughts on the markets and what's the feeling? What's the sentiment out there? Those things you cannot dismiss that human to human interaction. But it's also technology. Are you using technology to get information to help you? And that's one thing when we were talking about the retail investor earlier, there's just so much information out there in the markets, but I would just say turn it on and take a passion in it, meaning read it and enjoy it. Not everything is going to be valuable, but for us, the technology is almost connecting us a little bit better. So we use chat systems. It's almost like it's a more modern version of AOL Instant Messenger from back in the day. And believe it or not, something as simple as a chat room with a lot of our employees in it, that information that we get from that chat room on what the clients are saying, what's happening, is anybody picking up any tidbits? Is anybody seeing a trend? That is invaluable in this environment. So I'd say, God bless social media in that sense, that it's made retail investors smarter. And quite frankly, for some of us, it makes us smarter. There's a lot of noise in there as well. But I'm just saying that there are technology platforms out there that actually give us a lot of information that can help us.
Wow.
Regardless of the
That's
environment.
great insight.
Yeah.
Well, we are officially out of time. Thank you for sharing your insights and leadership. I mean, your ability to translate complex markets into actionable vision is exactly what makes you a standout CEO in the financial world.
Really appreciate the kind words. It's an honor to be here, and thank you so much. And you have that high energy as well. We could use people like you on Wall Street, so knock on Roth's door anytime.
That's it for this week's WR Spotlight on the Expert on the Microphone series. You've been listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. You can definitely check out Roth directly on LinkedIn at Roth Capital Partners, and you could follow Sagar directly at LinkedIn at Sagar Sheth, SAGAR SHETH. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is sponsored by FinTech TV.
FinTech TV, the newest streaming channel focused exclusively on the business of blockchain, digital assets, and sustainability. Broadcasting from our studio on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange with daily reports from NASDAQ, global expansion, and 24/7 coverage. Become part of the launch. Head to fintech.tv/invest. Fintech.tv/invest.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
Hi, I'm Emily Hayden. I'm the host of the Evolve with Emily podcast, personal coach and mentor. Now, we've all had those seasons in our life where it feels like nothing is working out. You don't get the job, the relationship doesn't work out, and it feels like the things around you are crumbling. This can feel like a very disempowered place to be in if you have the core belief and if it's part of your language and thought process that nothing works out for me and the world is against me. I know that it can feel that way when you are just getting disappointment after disappointment, but let me tell you what, you allowing that to be a part of your language and your thought process is actually keeping you stuck in this disempowered place. So today I'm here to help you move into an empowered place that can create a different reality for yourself. Now, the way that we can do that is by shifting that belief that nothing works out for me to now having this affirmation and belief that everything is always working out for me. What this does is it spikes curiosity and a potential hope for the future. So in a real life example, it would look like you don't get the job or you get fired from the job. One way of navigating that in the disempowered place would be nothing ever works out for me. This always happens. And that feels heavy. It feels frustrating. And being in a heavy, frustrated place is not going to allow you to take positive, inspired action. Now, you could go through the same exact example of losing the job and instead say, wow, I wonder how this is working out for me. Because you have the core belief it's always working out for me. Now you're curious and you're interested. I wonder how. I wonder what is next for me. I wonder what this is preparing me for. I wonder why space is being created in my life right now. I wonder what incredible job opportunity I'm going to get next. And I wonder how the job that I just had actually prepared me for where I'm going next. So you see how simply a shift in your thought process and your beliefs can create an entire different thought process, which allows you to show up differently for yourself. It allows you to show up in an empowered, excited, curious place. Your energy truly does dictate the way you think, the way you speak, and the way that you show up in your own life. So today, I hope that you guys will really think and analyze, am I in a disempowered place or am I in an empowered place? And if you're in the disempowered place, we've all been there, but now this is your opportunity to check yourself. What are those root beliefs, those core beliefs that you have that are dictating the way that you see what it is that you're going through? And could you invite yourself into more of an empowered place so that you can take inspired, aligned action and get excited, curious, and hopeful for your future. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And if you'd like to check me out on the podcast platforms, just search Evolve with Emily. Have a wonderful day.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut.
Discover the refreshing taste of 100% pure coconut water that actually tastes great. Naturally sweet with no artificial flavors or added sugar. It's packed with electrolytes to keep you hydrated throughout your day. And with 10% of profits going to charity, every sip makes a difference. Pure taste, pure goodness. Experience nature's Gatorade. Visit Once Upon a Coconut or naturesgatorade.com.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut.
Discover the refreshing taste of 100% pure coconut water that actually tastes great. Naturally sweet with no artificial flavors or added sugar. It's packed with electrolytes to keep you hydrated throughout your day. And with 10% of profits going to charity, every sip makes a difference. Pure taste, pure goodness. Experience nature's Gatorade. Visit Once Upon a Coconut or naturesgatorade.com.
Well, that's a wrap, my dear friends. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. Or you could head to 710WOR.iHeart.com/A A Moment of Zen. And also remember that we're live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. We're on YouTube Sundays at 2 p.m. And of course, all episodes of A Moment of Zen are available on your home TV and Kathy Ireland worldwide streaming platform. You can head directly to our channel. It's free programming to you at mox.yourhometv.com. Thank you for listening to us. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors that continue to make this show possible. And remember that happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it. We'll be back next week.